So yesterday we discussed about variables as well as the data types. So could you please someone tell me, like either Sai or Nikesh, what are the data types are supported by Java? What are the data types supported by Java? Okay, fine. I think Nikesh, you need to look at once and let me know. Okay, go through one more time what is the data types. Okay, look at here. So whatever the variables we declared within the method, outside within the method, right? So those variables are called local variables. The scope of those variables are limited to within the method, outside the class, and inside the method. Inside the methods, what are the variables you will have declared inside the methods or inside the block, or in block means we have discussed yesterday the block of statements. Inside that, what are the variables you have declared, the scope of those variables are within that block or within that method. Those variables we call as local variables. Local variables. Even here we have created object. Even we have created object here. This object also, this object also a local variable. So as I shown yesterday, you cannot access this VD. VD is a variable object which is created in the main method. That VD cannot be accessed outside here in other methods, right? That's also a local variable. Try to understand our instance variable. Even I actually explain the instance variable which you declare outside the method, inside the class. Outside the method, inside the class. If you see the local variables are outside the class, inside the method. Those are the local variables. And and there are some variables you declare outside the method but inside the class are called instance method. If you declare instance variables, if you declare any variables inside the class and outside the method, those variables are able to, you can access them within the class, anywhere in within the class. That's like a global variables. Those are like a global variables. You can access in the main method, you can access in the other methods, you can access anywhere, right? That's what I have shown you yesterday, right? Then this example shows that. This example shows that. So it means whatever the variables you declare within the class and outside the method, those variables are called instance variables. And whatever the variables you declare inside the method, those are called local variables. What are the variables you declare inside the class is called global variables or instance variable, and what are the variables you declare inside the method, they are called local variables. And let's look at the third type of variable which are called static variable. Static variable. Can anyone tell me what is a static variable? If anyone gone through, Anisha, Kishore, Masood, anyone?
Variables whose values do not change. They are static.
No, the variables can be
Oh,
changed.
okay, okay. You don't need to instantiate basically.
Okay, okay. Okay, so there look at here, there is slight difference. We will see a detail about the static variable. There is slight difference. Whatever the variables you declare outside the method, inside the class with a static keyword, with a static keyword, those variables are called those variables are called static variables. You can access this anywhere, guys. You can access this anywhere, not at all problem. This also has a kind of instance variable, but it has a special category. They comes under a special category. I'll explain what is a special category. Okay, you can access anywhere. You can access anywhere, any method, anywhere you can access. You can access from anywhere. Any method you can access it because it's an instance variable. Instance variable is nothing but a global variable. So the global variable can be accessed from anywhere. Can access from anywhere. The slight difference, if you observe here, your ID and name also instance variables, and the school name also an instance variable. I mean, under is also declared under the class, right? Inside the class, outside the method. But when I'm trying to access my ID and the name, I have to use an object or an instance, an object or an instance. This is called an object or an instance. Okay, so the VD is here instance or an object. Okay, so to access this ID and name which are non-static, I have to use either, I have to use instance or object to access them, to access them. But if you look at here, my school name, which is a static, I don't need an instance or an object to access it. An instance or an object to it within the main method. Why? So I'll explain the reason. Just look at here. Let's try to execute our code. Control F11. Yeah, it is executed. Make it big. Your main method begins because your execution will start from the main method. And if you see main method properly, if you see that first in main method, the line number 18 we are calling a main method, and next 20, line number 20, we are calling display variables. Display variable method we are calling. So the display variable method is getting called, and here the local variables are printed, I and j, and some of these things is printed, and the static variable also printed. If you guys look at here, because in the display variables method, we have a static variable, we're just printing that, and also we are printing our main method related one. We are printing our main method related one, and we are printing thing. So if you see here, I'm able to access I'm able to access a non-static non-static variables inside the main method using an instance, but a static variable I'm able to access without an instance. So the static variables are called as class level variables. The static variables are called as a class level variables. If you want to access a static variable or a static method or a static block, you don't need an object. You don't need an object. Okay, you don't need an object. Why? How it works? Because these are the static. So to understand this, we need to understand the one thing, how the memory allocation will happen for objects. How the memory allocation will happen for objects when you declare. Look at guys here. So taking the same example, I have I and j in a class, right? So if you take a heap memory, what is the object we have created? We have created vd, right? It is referring from the stack memory, so I'm not going with that much detail. It is referring from static. So here it has id, name. id name has its own memory allocation. Your id and name has its own memory allocation. Let me draw a little bit bigger one to make you understand. It is a vd where I have id equal to 101, where name I have java, where I have something called java. Suppose if I create a vd2, let's say there is something called I'm creating vd2 or v2 or vd2, whatever it is, variable demo. So I have my one more object with the id 101, name java, because these are hard coded. That's why both objects have the same value. So you guys need to understand here, because here id and name has been hard coded in line number 6 and 7. If you guys observe clearly, the line number 6 and 7, the values has been hard coded. That's why if you create any number of objects, they will get the same values because that has been hard coded. So how to not hard code, we'll see that. Okay, without hard coding also how can we access, I'll show you that later. Now here, now after few statements, vd dot id equal to, I don't like to be a hard coded one, 101, I say 110, I mean 1010, I 10 1010, and vd dot name, I don't want to be a java, I want to be hadoop. Hadoop. What will happen? So when this is happen, what it will do in your object, it will change the values. It will change the values. It will change such a way that your ID will be 1010. This will be Hadoop. This will be Hadoop. So when I change using VD, does it impact it on VD2? Does it impact it on VD2? When I change on object 1, does it impact it on object 2? As I want everyone to respond guys, because it is an important thing to understand, because when you go for interview there should be a question from this. Anisha, Kishore and others, Nagi, others, when I change a value vd.id and vd.name like other object, does it impacted on another object or no? No. Okay, anyone else? Anisha,
No,
Kishore, can someone
I
tell me
don't.
why? Anisha, why?
Because we are changing the values of the variables of only that object, vd dot
Exactly.
id.
So we are changing the values of variable which is belong to a specific object. What does it mean? It means when you create an object, when you create an object, the object will maintain a local memory for each instance variable. Local memory for each instance variable. Every object will have their own instance variables. instance variables. But if you declare something as a static, that's called school name, they will also get the school name. Everyone should get the school name, but that will be now common memory, guys. That will not be specific to each object. That will be common memory, IIT, and this both the guys will be referring the same memory. Not only one object, if you create 100 objects also, all 100 objects will be referring that common memory. All 100 objects will be referring that common memory. This common memory will call class area, class area or shared memory. Shared memory. It means this memory is shared with all the objects. But if you take ID and name, they maintain their own memory. Each object maintains their own memory. But static, when you say static, all these, whatever you keep in the static, that memory will be shared with all these objects. Suppose here, when I say vd dot school name equals Hadoop University or Big Data University, Big Data University, will it impact on object 2 or not? Will it impact on object 2 or not? This is become Big Data University. This is become Big Data University. Now, will it impact on object 2 or not? Will it impact on object 2 or not? Guys, now when I changed using vd.schoolName, vd is object 1, vd2 is object 2. So when I say vd.schoolName equal to Big Data University from IIT, will it impact another object or not?
It will impact.
It will impact. Yes. So why? Because it's a common memory. They're not maintaining local memory. Let's look at, guys, here the same example. I'm going to create one more vd2 instance variable vd.id, vd.name before change the values, before changing the values. Now the same variables, this is also from main method before change. Okay, now the same thing, what I will do here, I will print for vd2. I will print for vd2. I'll print for vd2. So let's say this is vd2, this is vd2. Now I'm going to change vd.id equals 1010, vd.name Hadoop, Hadoop, and vd.schoolName Big Data University. Now print all these four again after the changing of again after changing of after changing of after 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 change after change after change. Okay, now look at, I'm going to compile this code. Let me make it little bigger. Main is begin instance variable vd.id before change the values 101 Java and IIT, and vd.id before change the value 101 Java IIT, and vd.id change after the value because I am changing. I changed to 1010 and vd.name Hadoop because it was before Java, now it became Hadoop. Now the static variable, it has also changed. After change the big data university because it was before IIT, VD's school name was IIT, now it became a big data. If you see your VD2 object2 ID is not changed, ID2 VD2 name is not changed, but your VD2 school name is changed. Yes or no? Others are not changed. Your ID and name is not changed of object2, but the school name is changed. Why? Because the static variables are common for all the objects. If you create 10 object, 20 object, 30 object, doesn't matter. If any one of the object is change the value, that impact will be there in rest of the object. But if you are changing any non-static variables, there won't be any impact on other objects. Are you guys clear?
No.
What is your doubt? What is not clear?
This last part.
Last part means which one? Like where you were, I'm trying to understand the gap. Okay, I'm trying to understand where you didn't understand. Tell me here.
Because they share the same memory, the values will remain same. That I understand.
So that is the only static behavior. If you see here what I have done, initially I was having a default values VD, VD, and they have a school name. Let's say these two students, okay, one is Masood and other one is Kishore. Let's say one is Masood, VD is Masood, other one is VD2 is a Kishore. Okay, now the initially the Masood ID is 101 and name is Java and school name is IIT. For the Kishore also same because we have hard coded here 101 name is Java and IIT. We have hard coded because initially for Masood and Kishore the ID name and school name is same initially. Then later Masood thought that no, I don't want to stick with the default values, let me change my names and ID and the school name. So he has changed his ID from 101 to 1010 and name instead of Java he changed to Hadoop, and and school name instead of IIT he changed to big data. So is there any impact on when he changed, let's say when you talk about only these two, when he changed his ID and name, will it be impact on Kishore? Is Masood he changed his ID and name, will it impact on Kishore?
No.
Why no? I mean you said no is correct, why?
Because they are in different memories.
So they are independent to each object. They are local to each object. right? But when it comes to school, school name is not per object. School name is for per class. School name is for student. If you go to any school, the school name is not different for each student. The school name is global to all the students, but their ID, their name will be different. Student ID
Got
and
it.
student name is different, right? So if anyone change the school name, it will impact on all the students. Here, the school name is a static variable. A static variables are one copy for whole class. One copy for whole class. I never mind how many objects you create, but it is only one copy for all the students or all the objects. I never mind how many objects you create, but I am s- this is common memory for everyone. One variable for whole class, but when it comes to ID and name, for each object will have their own ID and their own name. Clear, Masood?
Yes. Thank you.
Yep, most welcome. Okay, that is about our variables. So if anyone wants to take a note, I'm just scrolling down. You guys can pause a video when you're going through a video, pause a video, and you can make a note of it. It's a pretty simple example, but I have explained more detail. That's the only difference. If you guys want to go with, it's a very simple one. If you guys have a look, please have a look once, and we'll move the next things. I'm just moving down. You guys can I'm just moving down. When you are taking a notes by going through video, please pause the video and take a notes. And the rest of the things are the same code as yesterday's code. Same as yesterday's code. Same as yesterday's code. Any doubts about the variables and data types, guys? Any doubts about the variables and static variable, local variables? Good. So let's move next topic. Let's move to next topic. Okay, let me move this video a little down. Yeah, you guys can keep on taking notes of it. Okay, so take it down and take of it. Okay, let's move. Next topic is called. The next one is called. The next one is called naming conventions. Rules. Actually, it's not actually rules. I can say convention. So it is you. If you follow this one, your code looks good. Naming convention. What is the naming convention? The naming convention is it's like a set of rules. I mean, it's not actually rules. It is guidelines, a set of guidelines which you need to follow while you're creating your class, while you're creating your package, while you're creating your project. So what is the naming convention or naming things I need to follow, which I need to follow? It is not mandatory. It will not force you to do it. You say that I'll not follow this. Yes, it's good. So obviously you take your own call. You don't need to follow them. But if you follow, it looks clear and good. But in companies, when you go for organization, they will force you to follow this. Why? Because it is not, the code is not owned your own property. The code is for all the team members, or the code is going to look at by your client and everyone. When they look at the code, it has to appear properly. I mean, it has to looks good. It should not be like a bad code. That's called, it should not bad code in the sense, not with respect to your logic or business, um, with respect to naming conventions. Okay, so let's do, so how your class has to look, how your method has to look, we are going to discussion. We're going to discuss class. First thing, very first thing, class. Class has to look, it should be a noun. First thing, it should be a noun. It should be a noun. Okay, noun. If you see an example for our noun in our program itself, system, variable demo or demo, employee, student, these are all nouns. The second one is, if when you are writing a class name, should start with a capital letter. Start with a capital. Should start with a capital. I think my pen is giving some problem. And the next word, if you have a multiple words in your school, your class name, the second word also should start with the capital. Should start with the capital letter. If you see in my case, variable demo, if you see, V is capital and D also capital. V is capital and D also capital. So this is a convention. If you say, so no, I will not write all capital letters. I will write everything in small letter. Yes, you can go ahead and write it. Okay, that will not force you to do anything. The next one is methods. Methods. Methods are like verbs. Methods are like verbs. Get me, display, print, run, right? These are all get ID, get name, get salary, right? Do some actions. Do some actions. When you're doing some actions, we will go with the methods. So those methods should start with a small letter. Should start with a small letter, and the next word, if it has multiple words, the next word should start with the capital letter. Should start with the capital letter. Methods are should start with a small letter, and the next word should be capital letter. If you also see in our program, we also followed the same way. Should start with a small letter, and the following word has to be capital letter. And when you take a variable names, when you take variables, should start with a small. It's as well as similar as your methods. As similar as your method, it's to start with a small letter. Start with a small letter. The next word should be capital letter. The next word would be capital letter. Like student ID, STD ID, I should be capital. Student name, employee name, department ID, department name, first name, last name, right? So these kind of things, street number, street ID. So this should be start with a small letter, and the following character, following word should start with the capital letter. And coming to your project name, the most of the cases the project name will be in all the small letters. The project name will be in all in small letters. And coming to packages, projects all small letter. When you're writing, when you're creating a project name, all small letter. When you're creating a package, also should be a small letter. When you're writing a constants, all should be in a capital letter, like min, max, min, max, or any fix, like a pi value, right? So these are all constant variables. The constant will not change frequently. It will not change. Not only frequently, it will not change. Once you assign, the constant will not change entire the life of that object or entire life of that class. That should be all should be in the capital letters. All should be in capital. Constant should be all in capitals. And coming, there is something called interface. So we will talk about them later. But anyway, let's look at there is something called interface. Interface. The interface has to be as similar as your class. Start with the capital letter, and the following would also should be capital letter. And interfaces are adverb, not adverb, I think adjectives. It's adjectives. Runnable, let's say some interfaces runnable, serializable, clonable. There are some interfaces runnable, serializable, clonable, right? These kind of things. Clear, guys? Is everyone is clear about the naming convention? Anisha, Ganesh, Kishore, Masood, everyone.
Yes, we are clear.
Yeah. Now let's talk about something called constructors. Another important one is something called constructor. What is a constructor, guys? Some guys might have gone through it already, or some. What is a constructor? Anyone? Anisha, Kishore, Masood, anyone? You guys might have gone through in your college days. What is a constructor? Anisha, Sachin. Constructor is constructor is mainly used for initializing the object, constructing an object. Constructor is mainly for constructing an object with a default variables or default values. What is that? Let's say if you see in our previous example, we have created two instances or two variables vd and vd2. What we are doing here? Constructing an object using new keyword. Using new keyword. What we are doing actually here? I didn't see any this type of thing anything in my class. Where is this? Search for it. Search for it with the brackets. I don't have anywhere. What is this? So the constructor is mainly meant for constructing an object with the default values or initializing a variables or initializing a variables. Let's look at, guys, a simple example to make sure that to make you understand. I'm going to introduce something called different multiple classes in the same file. So I'm writing a student. I'm writing a student. I'm writing a student here. Student has ID. Student has ID. He has name. He has name. Let's say DOB, date of birth. Date of birth also I'm taking string as of now. We can take a different value. date of birth. Okay, now I have something called a spelling wrong, student. Student. I'm going to create a constructor. Constructor you can create. The constructor has to be as similar as your class name. You can go with a public or you can go with any other modifier. We'll talk about the modifier later. Student with the default values, id equal to 100, name equal to Java, default values, and DOB is 111, default values. I don't want the default values. I want to pass the values to my constructor. Either you can type like this, guys, either you can type like this, and you can right click on your code, source. Where is the source? Source, generate constructor using field. You can generate the code. You don't need to write, you don't need to type, you don't need to type. Generate constructor using fields. It will generate like this. We'll talk about the super later. I don't want to make you confused, that's why. Okay, so I also don't want to confuse you here by using this. I'm just differentiating something here. Let me show you something. I also don't want to confuse you. That's why I'm removing all these things, guys. We'll talk more about this. Okay, about this multiple times. We'll talk about more. Okay, now if anyone is creating empty brackets, these are the default values. If anyone wants to pass some values, they can pass some values. Okay, let's look at, guys, here. I'm going to create student. I'm going to create multiple students. Student default equal to new student, because I don't want to pass any values. It's the default values. What happened? What's the problem? Oh, it's okay. It's a default is the keyword. I should not use the default. Default is the keyword. Okay, default is the keyword. So def, let's say um, FAULT default 1. Okay, now I'm going to create a different students. I'm going to create a multiple students. 1, 2, 3 students. Their names are Java, J2E, Hadoop. I'm passing some values here. What are the things I need to pass? If you look at here, ID I need to pass, name I need to pass, and date of birth I need to pass. ID, name, date of birth. So what are the things I need to pass? ID, name, and date of birth. Let's say here ID is integer 100, name is Java, the date of birth is let's say some 90s. And J2E, you can take 1010. You can say J2EE, and you can take the date of birth. You can take any date of birth. And Hadoop, you can take Hadoop. Okay, these are the students I have created here. So I'm not going to display anything else. I'm just making you understand what is a constructor. So what will happen? Okay, let me write one method here just for displaying the values. Public void disp or print. So what I'm going to print here, I'm going to print system.out.println id is id student, id is this, student name is this, student DOB is this, DOB, date of birth. So after every student I just want to print them java dot print j2e dot print hadoop dot print. I just want to print all of the student, and I also want to print default values dot print. Okay, now what I'm doing here, I'm nothing. I just have one class which has the id name, student class, which has the name, id and date of birth, and I have some constructors here. These are called constructors. Constructors are a special kind of methods, as if you take it as a method, special kind of methods which will not have a return type, which will not have a return type. If you take, this is the student, looks like a constructor, those are not actually constructors, looks like a constructor, looks like a method, those are not methods. They are looks like a methods, but those are not actually methods. Student does not have any return type, but your method should have a return type. Method should have a return type, either it's void, or if you remove this it will show you an error. Method should have a return type. Method should have a return type. Constructor should not have a return type. Constructor should not have a return type. If you keep a return type here, that will be treated as a method. That will be treated as a method. Okay, that will not treat it as a constructor, that will treat it as a method. Okay, fine. So constructors are mainly meant for the constructing an object with the initial values, right? So look at here. I'm creating 3 students or 4 students including a default. For the default I'm not passing any value, empty brackets. I'm not passing any values here because I want the default constructor has to execute. For others like a Java, J2E and Hadoop, I'm passing some parameters. I'm passing some parameter which is called parameter constructor. There are 2 type of constructors. One is a default constructor, Other one is a parameter constructor. Other one is a parameter constructor. Go here. When I click on this, it will take me to a default constructor. It will take me to default constructor. When I click on this by holding the control, when I click on this, it will take me to the parameter constructor. Okay, let's look at after executing this program. Control F11. We have a student ID 100 Java, and this is the date of birth. This is the default. This is with the default. And I have something student which has 100 and Java and some date of birth. So default, let me put as a default. So that will, I think that will make default. So ID anyway, so I cannot change it because let me say 0. That's the one I can do. Look at here, the default initially. Then for Java is the student, and for J2E is the one, and for Hadoop is the date of birth and all. So what I'm doing here, I'm constructing a 3 different objects or 4 different objects with a different values. I'm not hard coded. If you see in the previous example, we have hard coded here. If you create 100 objects, all 100 will have the same values. But here I'm creating my own students while passing the objects, while passing the parameters, while passing the parameters. While constructing itself, while constructing student itself, I'm giving a values. I'm giving a values. What will happen while your object is getting created? While your object is getting created, that time itself, the initial values will be initialized. The values will be initialized for the variable. The values will be initialized for the variables. So different objects will create a different values for their variables. Understand, guys? So this is called parameter constructor. This is called parameter constructor. Parameter constructor. Parameter constructor. This is called default constructor. This is called default constructor. This is called default constructor. Default constructor or no argument constructor, or no argument constructor. No argument constructor. Right? So default constructor, no argument constructor will be used when you have a default values, and parameter constructor are used when you want a specific variables for the specific object. We'll go with the parameter constructor. What is happening here? So here, whenever we create an object, the respective constructor is getting called. If it is a no argument constructor, no arguments will go to the no values will be initialized for the default constructor or for the variables. And if you're passing with the parameters, what are the parameters you're passing to that specific object, those parameters or those values are getting initialized for the variables. The main purpose of the constructor is initializing an object at the time of object creation. Are you guys clear about this? About the constructor? Nikesh, Kishore, Matsud, Sachin, Anisha. Are you guys clear about the constructors? Okay. Sachin, Masood, Kishore,
Mira, you have declared.
yeah.
So you declared the values in above also, right? Int ID, int name, int DOB and all. The top, the
Yes,
student class.
yes.
So can't we use those same values in the public student constructor, which is parameter constructor?
Those all I'm using, right? ID, name, DOB.
Okay. So you're overriding, right? I think with the
Not
name, different
overriding.
name.
I'm not
You're
overriding.
assigning, right?
No, no, no.
You're assigning ID 1 to
Yes, I'm assigning
ID.
what are the values I'm getting from here. Let's say Hadoop. When I click on this, it will go here. My 1000 will go here. My name Hadoop will go here. My date of birth will go here. So that values I'm assigning to ID, name, DOB.
Okay.
I'm assigning
My
the
question
variables.
is, I mean, can't we say in this public student int ID, int string name, why we cannot give same values again in
You
this?
can give, you can give.
So the
If you can give, but you can give like this. I'm not telling that you cannot give, right? You can give like this, but if you give like this, the problem is the problem is this side ID, your left side ID, the left side ID, the left side name, left side DOB, it will be considered your local variables. Let's see, if I click on the DOB, it is selected this. If when I click on the name, it is selected this. When I click on ID, it is selected this. It means it will be considering a local variable name because both are same names. ID, there is no change in the name. So to make it a clear change, you have to do this dot. You have to do this dot. You have to
okay,
do this
okay,
dot. So why I have removed this, because this again people will start asking, so why this? What is this? So what is this means? Now when I select this ID, right? My ID is not getting selected. If you look at here, when I select my name, this is not getting selected. When I look at DOB, this is not getting selected. These are getting selected by these values. Look at here.
oh, yeah, yeah, okay,
So if you take same names, it is something like you're assigning yourself.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. If you want to take a
fine,
same names, you should go with this dot. You should go with
okay,
this dot. Otherwise, it will give completely wrong. Okay.
fine,
So
Vito.
yeah.
Thank
So
you.
when we will use this parameter constructor?
Whenever you want to create an object with the parameters, whenever you want to create with the parameters with an parameter object, when you're creating an object by passing parameter.
Okay, these last three are parameters and the first one is default, student
Yes.
default one.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other doubts?
Veera, is it possible to use only two values? For example, I have declared the constructor with three parameters,
Hmm.
but I want to use that parameter with only two. I
Very
mean,
good question. Very good question, Kishore. You please try it
okay, I'll try.
and let me know what it will do.
Okay.
What it will say. Okay. It will say, I cannot handle. I don't have. I don't know who to whom you are calling. I don't know to whom you are calling. Let's look at here. I'm just removing one value. It says that I don't know to whom you are calling. It is expecting int string, but you are passing only int and string. Where is other value? Right? I'm not able to find out. I'm not able to find out that. Okay. In that case, what you need to have, you should have a two two parameter constructor.
Okay.
So you remove this. Now you should not have this. Then it will work. It is success, no error.
Okay.
How many variables you pass,
Okay.
how many parameters you pass, your constructor should have those many parameters.
So it's a compulsory, is it?
It's compulsory. It has, right?
Okay.
You are passing two. How can you expect? So there is nothing. The default values will not assign. Okay.
Okay. No, in a normally in a method, for example, if you declare with a method with a three variable,
Mm-hmm.
but we can use with a two also, right?
Is
If I
it?
want to pass. So if it considers default one, right?
No. You
Sometimes.
you try and send me. You send me that program. with the function. You're telling that I have something called public void add. You have something called two parameters. Let's say two parameters. I'm taking two parameters here. Okay. Int I, int j, and I'm just printing here I plus j, I plus j. Okay. And you are telling that you will pass from here. Okay. So if I'm keeping this here, I need to write an object to access this. Let me keep it in a student class itself. So now you are telling you pass only one parameter, right?
Yeah.
You will pass only one parameter and it will take default value for second. What it is telling? I'm not able to find. I'm not able to find this type of method. If you want to
Okay.
create one,
Okay.
right? The same. So yeah, you guys might have confused with your C++ method somewhere. Or what C++ will do, it will take the default values, but here no. I think C++ also, not C++. I think I have seen some other language. I think C++,
No, I think
maybe.
scripting language do that.
No, here there is nothing like that. Yeah, in Scala.
Okay.
In Scala, there is something called default values where you can set the default values. If you didn't pass any value, it will take the default values. But here it is not.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you guys. Thanks for your time. I want these three programs from Nikesh and Sai and Masood. Please send me what are the programs we have discussed so far, and with another 2-3 programs from your side. 2-3 programs from your side, like you are practicing or you have did the hands-on. I want to see those programs from you guys, even including anyone. So not only those guys. Why I'm stressing only those guys? Those are freshers. So I want uh, make them to involve more into this. So others are experienced. I know they will not get a time to go through, and they'll not get a time to do all these things. But especially Nikesh, Sai, and Masood, and whoever is fresher and whoever have a good time, enough time to do hands-on in Java, please send me. I'm expecting by tomorrow morning before class, I want to see in your screen um, this, apart from these three programs, extra 5 programs with your if else loops all together. I want to see with some loops, some if else conditions, some switch condition. Okay, so I want to see those programs from you guys. Okay, please put in your Eclipse, as well as please send to my mailbox as well. Yep. Thank you guys. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.